Namaskar viewers. Day after tomorrow we are going to celebrate Republic Day, and very soon we are going to celebrate the 75th years of our independence. So journey has been enormous, and we have seen lot many good things happening in our society, in our nation. Women especially have been the integral part of all this journey, and we have a very famous saying in our culture that says, "Yatra pujate nari tatra ramanti devata." And to some extent, definitely we believe in that. But somewhere there is a very small corner or small scar on this saying, wherein we see that within the four walls, women are abused, mishandled, and harassed. So one day I saw the ratio, and it is like one woman in three is going through this, and which is like almost 75% of our society. And many cases do not get registered because the women are not vocal. They feel that's what their fate is, and that's what they have to go through. However, today we thought we will have a panel who would help women to seek help, rather be vocal about their problems and not hide it, or rather get burnt into it, and then one fine day do not know where to go. So I have a wonderful and a very experienced and expert panel today, and it's an honor to welcome each one of them. So let me introduce, I have Shrimati Ekta Verma, who is a social activist, entrepreneur, and associated with women problem for some time now, and she's involved into counseling and giving helping hand to such women. Welcome to the program, Ekta ji.
Namaskar to all the viewers, and thank you very much.
We have Shrimati Kshama Naragun. Kshama ji is a lawyer from Bangalore, and she is handling cases of domestic violence and abuse, along with many other civil cases. So I would like to welcome Kshama ji also. So Swagatam ma.
Namaste. Namaste viewers. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have last but not the least the police officer, because somewhere we need to enforce the law, and that's where a powerful personality is required. And who else can do it if it is an IPS officer woman? So I have Srimati Pragnya Srivastava ma'am. She is ADG MP for Crime Against Women in MP. So आपका भी स्वागत है मैम. धन्यवाद for your time.
Thank you. Small correction I'd like to make, Ketki ji. हम लोगों ने Crimes Against Women को rename करा दिया है. It's now a Mahila Suraksha branch. So
protection,
women safety branch.
Safety branch.
It comes across as being much more positive and
positive. Proactive. Absolutely. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Honor is all mine and pleasure is all mine. So just now, as I said, Ekta ji, let's start with you. Ki one in three women is going through this abuse or violence within the four walls, as I said. Many cases are not registered, not talked about. What is the pattern are you observing being in this for some time now?
Oh, thank you very much. बहुत ही relevant question है, and I would like to answer it. See, we are talking about 1 in 3 women. These are statistics from 2019. Statistics over a period of the lockdown have not even been covered, right? So when we talk about these statistics, 1 in 3 women, we are talking about women who report.
Yes.
So you can imagine that there is a huge gap with respect to reporting the case itself, coming out in the open. There are like 1,000 stereotypes. Survivors come to us all the time, right? And there are so many stereotypes they have. If I go to the police, will they harass me? Will they take money? If I go to a lawyer, he will, go to the other side's lawyer and, I don't know, he's not hit me, he just abuses me sometimes, why should I leave him? I want my children to grow up with 2 parents. There are so many reasons that women give for staying in abusive relationships. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to help them understand that if you are living in a violent relationship, because you want your child to have both parents. You are not giving him both happy and good parents. You are giving him a set of unhappy, violent, sad parents. Somebody, the mother usually is the one who bears the brunt in such a case. And if you are forever depressed or sad or crying, how is that helpful to a child's growth? That is actually a very toxic environment. तो मैं ये बहुत छोटा सा give a very small example of a gulab jamun as an analogy. So when you put a when you make a gulab jamun and it's in sugar syrup for a very long time, so pehle 2-3 din to it's very nice, everybody loves it and tastes it. But the minute it crosses a week or 10 days, the gulab jamun starts to break apart. It will start to break into a million pieces. And that gulab jamun is no longer worth eating. A marriage or a toxic environment is exactly like that for humans. So the analogy is made in such a manner that if you keep a child in a toxic environment, and if you go back and you see abuser behavior, one of the things that you will note commonly across is that there is a lot of commonalities in the social structure of the families that they come from. They may not exactly be the same, but there will be a lot of commonalities. So what we are doing by not reporting, not speaking up, is we are actually empowering our abuser. What does the abuser need? He needs your silence.
True.
And if you are continuously silent, it's an easy place for him to operate, right? Because families in India, India is not like the West at all. We have a very, very different, we value the family unit.
True.
Nobody wants to break a family unit. And Pragya ji will, probably agree on this, to say that, every time, whether it's the law or the police, we always try and patch up. Right, but there are certain situations which cannot be patched up. Also, it is necessary for women to speak up. They need to understand that just because somebody has not been physically slapped, or somebody has been, maybe given a lot of verbal abuses or is being treated badly, so when a girl is married, they will sack the domestic help. They will put all the work on her. I can count so many cases. The husbands will go out, they will have affairs, and they will say, you take care of the house while I'm enjoying myself out. So many scenarios. I mean, if I start to count it, I don't know, pura sham ho jayega. But not taking more time, what I want to urge everybody is that if you are going through something, okay, apne stereotypes, please keep them on the side. Every stereotype you have is not true. You have to speak up, because silence fosters abuse. You are creating an environment to help. And third, an abusive or a toxic family is not at all good for your children.
Yes, makes sense. Kremaji, I want to ask you a Davis lawyer question. As just now Ekta said, Indian context, it's a marriage of two families. It's not only two human beings. And somehow the culture and tradition has taught our women that she has to be correct. She has to be taking care of the family, and she should be more patient and more subtle, because if she cries or she makes a sin, the family values or the name of the family will be different. How often it is advisable to take the legal help?
It's a very tricky question. Thank you actually for asking this question. Now, when you see how often is it required, my limited experience has given me two kinds of cases. I mean, two kinds of clients have actually come. Strangely, there have been clients where I have felt that, this case has to be pursued under the domestic violence, and question of patching up this relationship should not arise because there is clear-cut case of physical abuse. Call it victimization, call it culture, call it the kind of, environment that they're brought up in. In such genuine cases, I have women coming and pleading me saying that do whatever, but ensure that my marriage gets patched up. And they want to go back. They want to go back despite knowing the fact that the husband's going to drink again, come back and hit these women in the same way, black and blue. But they're like, no, Didi, I can't handle this. I can't stay here. I have to go back. I don't have people. This is one kind of cases. There are other kinds of cases where certain counselors help. Now, when I speak of counselor, I mean to say, therapists.
Yes.
Some therapists can actually work on both personalities, the man's personality and the woman's personality, and correct their behaviors so as to ensure that the toxicity of that relationship comes out. But here are, certain things are very trivial where I will say, okay, then I advise that let's put you under a counselor before actually entering into the, legal hassle. So, and thereafter we will take up the matter. In case things don't work out, law and police are not going to run away anywhere. They're always going to be there with you. So ending a relationship is always an option, but this is a relationship where it can be corrected. The toxicity part of it can be brought out. Strangely, these women refuse to take those help. So they don't want to take help. So they want to say, no, ma'am, I can't handle this. I just want this relationship to end. So these are the two kinds of cases. Two kinds of people. And though I would not want to generalize, but my experience says economic independence has actually led to economic sufficiency. I wouldn't say self-sufficiency. Sufficiency empowers you to take legal help. The ones who say that I want to go back to my abusive husbands are people who are not economically sufficient by themselves. So they are the ones who say that. Now, how often would you want? I would say not every instance requires legal help, but every instance definitely requires a counselor's help. There are marriage counselors, there are therapists. Get that toxicity out of your life. That's more than enough. And this is not, especially when we say protection of women, gender-based law, I also see quite a few number of cases. I wouldn't say as many as that of women, but there are quite a few number of cases where the men have approached me saying that, madam, there is huge cruelty happening. There are sexual abuses that are happening against me. Where is my solution? And at present, with law, I don't have a solution for them apart from the normal IBC.
Yes.
So, question is, these gender-based laws, though they are actually becoming a little gender irrelevant to a certain class of society. So, can we speak of, basic human dignity is what we expect between two individuals. So long as you're able to provide that, my advice would be, marriages can live without love, but they can't live without respect. So respect each other. That's when your marriages will long for, for eternity. So how often? I still don't have an answer. But yes, when it is very grave or when you feel that should I go and talk? Yes, you should, because law is definitely not going to scare you off. And like what Ekta ji very rightly said, people come with a lot of stereotypes. So it's not so. And police is not going to hit you every time. Police is not going to use third degree every time.
Let's ask that to the police.
So there are very nice people.
Definitely. Okay. Now that you have said police, so let me bring in Pragya ji. Pragya ji, 1961 में एंटी डॉरी लॉ बना है और आज हम 2022 में हैं और there are many laws and many policies are made for the protection of women. आप इतने सालों से पुलिस में हैं और इस पर काम कर रही है. मानसिकता अभी भी नहीं बदली है लोगों की. Mindset is that male dominating. And as just now Kshama ji mentioned that economically weaker section is facing it more, and they are still in that culture environment saying that I want to protect my family. But those अभी तो बहुत आगे बढ़ गई है महिलाएं और economically सक्षम हो गई है, so they take a first step or a chance to break the harmony. क्या पुलिस इसमें कुछ काउंसलिंग का पार्ट प्ले करते हो कि आप सीधा एफआईआर करते हो?
Yeah, thank you, Ketki ji. I think both Ekta ji and Shama ji have raised some very, very basic questions pertaining to how the society is right now. Family, which used to be the epicenter of society, what is the role and status of that unit, of the status of women in our society? I think very, very pertinent questions have been raised. I must also add that in the initial, I've done about, if I exclude the training period, 28 years of policing in field.
Yes.
Out of which initial few years we did have, like you mentioned, counseling. We used to run, we still do something called a Paramarsh Kendra, which is a counseling center with the at every district level. I think many things here, there cannot be a linear view of things at all, because our culture is complex. In fact, we live in society economically, we live at various levels.
Yes.
And the position of women at those various levels differs a bit, I would say.
Yes.
So here, when we are talking of domestic violence, the one thing that came across was, that women do not come forward and speak about.
Yeah.
It's not only to what I have gathered over the years, it's because of cultural reasons, economic reasons, like was mentioned, and societal reasons. Culturally, it has been drilled into one's head, at least in our country, that if you're a woman, you should have, you were born patient. God made you different, and you have to have a lot of those qualities which you don't have to. You cannot be a family breaker. You are the one who has to keep the family together, no matter what you suffer, and your suffering is a big virtue, and things like that.
True.
Societally, we still look upon, in conversations, wo to fala to wo divorcee hai. Now, why should that come across as something which is not right? And for that matter, there are many friends of my husband who are married, or perhaps have had a broken marriage. We're looking for they are looking for a partner, so
second
to say,
option,
or a wife. One realizes that there are so many women who would like to come out and actually go ahead. They're not married, or maybe they too have had a broken marriage, and they would like to come out and remarry. But something pulls them back. You talk to them, you try and convince them, and something pulls them back. They say, no, we are happy. Hum dhyan rakh rahe hain, hum apna acha. Then the economic bit, yes, because you're working, you're confident that जो पहले होता था कि वो जाएगी तो अर्थी ही बाहर आएगी. The very reasons were that the father would feel that the share of the property, the Stridhan, has been given to the girl. Now, if she comes back, then there's another mouth to feed, and if there are children, they have to be looked after. Whatever that could be. In the initial phases of counseling, this is what I gathered. The parents would come out and say, look, we have married her, and we have given her, we cannot afford to look after her now. So this was a sad reality. So these are features. Yes. Now, as far as the policing is concerned, I must say that we have the entire concept of policing we're trying to change, because we definitely, I must share, before we get too serious, a couple of anecdotes. When I had joined the service,
sure,
there was we have a special armed force like the armed unit anywhere. So I was a commandant. So I got a call, and there were no mobiles then, and we are in a habit of picking up the calls ourselves, the phones. So there was a call, and I picked up the phone, and the person at the other end said, "Saab, wo DG साहब, commandant साहब से बात करना चाहते हैं." So I said, "हाँ, बात कराइए." So I said, "नहीं, आपसे नहीं, commandant साहब से." So I had to actually tell the guy, well, unfortunately, for good or bad, I'm the commandant. So the thing was still there, and even down to basic things like you join a place of work, and you find out that there is the toilet is only meant for men.
Yeah.
even these are, and I'm talking about today's time. So these are the issues are still there. So when we talk of domestic violence and the cultural or the societal pressures associated with it or the concepts, then we need to remember that we are talking about a police that is a part of the same social milieu. We have not, the police people have not come from
not different. Yes.
So they are part of the same social milieu. However, there has been a change, a massive change with the, I would say, with the gender sensitization camps and modules that are being introduced and done.
Correct.
But I would personally believe more because of the women that we are inducting into our force. Somewhere, there are these stereotypes again floated, which very often women themselves endorse, which I don't. महिला की दुश्मन होती है, नहीं वो ज़्यादा समझती है. I can vouch for it that if I were running at night alone at 12 o'clock and there was a male police officer to whom I could go for help, or there was a female police officer, I'd definitely go to the female police officer. So the presence itself has had a factor of making the police more receptive, open to such things. Now, for the concrete things that have been done, particularly for domestic violence, I think Madhya Pradesh is perhaps the only state to have opened 700 Mahila desks at places. These are the Mahila desks are places where women can come. You know, every person, I mean, Ekta ji would know that, and so would Shama ji, that every woman who comes to us with a problem does not necessarily fall into a cognizable offense. So it is something, you know, and another thing is, yes, as was mentioned, they also do not want to go to the court or you know, they don't want to break the family. That was again mentioned. Yes, so they're both correct. So these desks, we have created a niche in the Thana itself, where there are women officers to talk to you, and the woman can come and share whatever the problem she has. It's a kind of a, I would say, if it's a convergence point where the officer who's listening to the complainant, if she feels that no, this falls clearly under a cognizable offense, and something has happened or she is hurt, no way there is going to be counseling, because we also need to take this on head on. You cannot accept such visits, so we go for registering of cases. But otherwise, things like trained professional counselors in the district legal authority, which is the district judge's office, we send our women there, our girls there. In fact, we are also been contemplating pre-marital counseling also. And we through the COVID times, we did e-counseling to the families. So these things are coming in. We are looking at a situation where we assist the woman to speak out. And you know, one of the things that happens is that when we go for a case registration, very often these women, by the time the case comes to trial, they turn hostile. We're trying through our witness protection scheme that, you know, they don't turn hostile, that something comes out of it. And I'm quite sure with all these efforts, of course, the number of registration goes high, because if women, if they come out and speak, either we counsel or we register cases, the statistics will go high. So another factor which is so important if we really want women to speak out is that we should not be judged by the statistics of the crimes happening in a state. Because perhaps we are registering, perhaps we are open, therefore our statistics are high. But I refuse to believe that Madhya Pradesh, the statistics are, you know, much higher than, I wouldn't like to name, but certain other states in the country. We should not be judged, because unless and until, if you're asking women to come out, if you're asking someone to come to you for help, then obviously either we counsel, or if it's a non-cognizable thing, or counseling can help and we can, or we go for the registration of case. So these are X number of factors, and maybe through the discourse today, I am sure I would also learn as to what else we can do to improve the kind of policing that the male-dominated, still the male-dominated policing that we have.
Yes. Police से डरते हैं लोग. Reason being, suddenly the legal angle comes in a picture, and that is something they want to avoid. So let me ask Shama here. Shama ji, abuse on the rough side, I think 3 or 4 categories. Mental, physical, and whatever we have categorized. Now, what I want to ask you is, most of the time it is a mental abuse, because it is not always a main, even the family is involved into it. As the families are involved into good, they're involved into bad as well. So can a woman complain against woman?
Yes. The requirement for domestic violence is that there should be a shared household and it should be a domestic relationship.
Okay.
Now, if you have complaints against, let's say, another woman who is living in your house, along with your husband, as in, when I say another woman, it could be your mother-in-law, it could be your sister-in-law, it could be a co-sister, it could be any person. So gender is not a bar. Question here is whether it is in the same household, whether there is a domestic relationship between the two. That's all is being looked into. So, you can complain against other women. Usually, I must say that, for various legal reasons, I say that under domestic violence, if you have, people living in that house, add everybody's names, because very conveniently, the new trend that we see because of the economic independence and whatever that's happening is that what they do is the site is in the name of the husband. The husband decides to, construct a house. So what he does is he takes all the construction loan and everything else in the wife's name. He will ask her to pay the EMIs and do everything. So the house is practically built through her
with
funds.
the money of her money, yeah.
Yes. And once that house is done, there have been several instances where the woman has been completely ill-treated, physically, emotionally, verbally, everything. And she will have no piece of paper with her, to show that she has given all the money. If she is very clever, she would have done a bank transfer in order to maintain things. Otherwise, if it is a very premeditated idea of, throwing her out after the construction of the house, then the husband insists that everything happens by way of cash. I can say that out of the number of cases that I have handled, I have seen at least about, 25% of the cases that are with me, wherein the woman has spent every penny to spend to construct the house, and today she lands up having absolutely nothing there because she's not maintained any records. So it gets a very difficult thing for us to, So the idea is, yes, domestic violence, apart from the violences that you've also said, financial abuse is also
one of the abuse.
Yes.
Excellent. Ekta ji, let's talk to you. Just now, as Kshama said, that women is not aware that what is happening. And it is one, lack of education. And second, women take pride in doing the things within kitchen. And they say that, okay, anything outside, my husband books the tickets. My husband knows my itinerary. My husband knows which car to buy. My son will decide where we should settle down after our retirement. So, ये जो secondary position लेने का जो एक attitude होता है ना, in the name of a mother, she is actually keeping herself uneducated. And she is not aware of the things that is potentially going to happen with her or happening with her. And when, as Shamaji said, when it's too late even for the law to assist them, for the police to assist them. So, what is your opinion on this?
Right. So I'm going to answer this question in two parts. All right. But first, I wanted to sort of say something about what Shamaji said. I was making notes as she was speaking. So counseling is available in India, right? We have very, very limited, good quality psychology counselors in the country. When we talk about counseling, anybody who gives advice is termed as counseling. In the West, if you see in different countries, if you, for example, go to a UK or a US, and not that they are better for the crime, I'm not saying that they are better countries, but certain rehabilitation facilities that they are provided are slightly better. All right. They are worse than us in terms of violence. So unfortunate, but counseling is not talking to someone or advising someone. Advice is faltu because you give advice from your own upbringing and conditioning.
Yeah, unsolicited.
Correct. Unsolicited to somebody who's going through something very devastating and does not require your advice at all, because your advice may actually end up harming her. Right? So the first thing I would like to say is, let us get the definition of counseling right. Right? And I know that all of us operate within these boundaries, right? So counseling means that if marital counseling has been suggested to somebody going through domestic violence, right, it does not tackle the abuser's behavior. The abuser tells this girl, I'm not interested. Why should I go? Pagal to tum ho, tum jao. Right? And this is a very, very common scenario where the girl is told that you go and get counseling. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm so successful. I'm doing so well. Because as all of us know, if you know an abuser, they'd be very charming and very interesting and things like that. And so there are no formal batterer intervention programs. Also, because of the whole patriarchy that exists in our social systems, men are not willing to seek help. They say, why do I need help? Isko bhejo help ke liye. So that kind of counseling will never work, because one person is getting counseled and the other person who's causing the abuse is not able to understand where their issues lie. Right? So in very, very few cases does marital counseling have actual success in domestic violence. Right? Now, there is something known as trauma bonding. We say, why does she not leave? So trauma bonding is something where this person, to protect herself, builds a bond with her abuser, because that is her mechanism to cope with this violent. And violent does not mean thappad mara violent. If you're shouting at her, if you're screaming at her, if you're being intimidating towards her, if you're using the children to blackmail her, all of those things are violence, right? So our law covers physical violence. It covers emotional and verbal abuse. It covers economic abuse. It covers sexual abuse, which has a huge debate going on the side on whether it should be legalized as marital rape. And then finally, we have started to see a new form of abuse, which is called digital abuse, where husbands are live streaming their intimate moments with their wife on social media, where husbands are sharing nude screenshots of their wives. Right? So counseling is something that we need to develop as a part of the rehabilitative process. Nobody is saying you break the marriage, but in a marriage, to be respectful, the man also needs to understand and the woman also needs to understand. It's very easy to go on Facebook and give gyan that, it's only your reaction that matters. No, but if you're in an abusive situation, it's not only your reaction that matters. That's point number one. Point number two, it is unfortunately not true that abuse only exists in a certain socio-economic class. I have helped almost 1,700 women from across the country, and not one of them is from the lower social strata. We do not handle cases for marginalized women because the police and a lot of other NGOs are already doing a very good job. They are open, they speak up, they fight. Of course, a lot of times they go back into those abusive relationships for economic reasons. But educated women, women earning 25 lakh, 30 lakh rupees per annum, women in software professions, and you're a software professional, so I don't need to tell you, are facing abuse and don't speak up. Now this is not
humiliation, and that one pattern I have seen, just to add to your point, is all this happens very privately. When the same men are in the public life, they are very different. They are two-faced. You cannot make out that the same person is really ugly at home. So this is a pattern I have seen personally. Sorry.
There is no fixed pattern of abuse, unfortunately, right? It is not necessary. It is, we have enough cases of women getting beaten by husbands who are very, very highly placed. We have a case of a very, very senior CEO who kept harassing his wife because he had an affair with a lady, and he would come home and he would beat his wife. And this is somebody who's a leader, in the industry, right? So we cannot classify and say, because we don't have proper statistics and studies. What we rely all our knowledge on is NCRB data, right? Which is not complete. NCRB data is crime-based data. It's not fair to tabulate. Also, if we are working towards getting a family together, then it is absolutely necessary that the batterer, that is the abuser, as well as the survivor who's being abused, need to get proper psychological or psychiatric counseling. I will give you a sort of a case that happened. We had this gentleman who was suffering from a condition called bipolar disorder, and he was very violent, and 30 years he used to beat up his wife mercilessly. The children got a little older, the sons, and they decided enough is enough. Now we cannot let our father continue to beat the mother. And when they went, and of course, they dragged their father to counseling, and it was later discovered that he has bipolar disorder. So he was immediately put on therapy and medication, and the beatings did not completely stop, but they subsided. All right. Okay. Right. So we cannot say for sure, since there are no fixed studies that tell you exactly what is the pattern. Right. All right. So one more thing I want people to sort of think about, think over.
One second. I just want to bring in Pragya ji here for a minute, and then we'll continue. Right. Pragya ji, now that a couple of examples we heard from Ekta ji and Kshama ji also, this is really unpardonable. But police has a limitation. Unless I come and speak about it or I tell you about it, you cannot take the action, because you have your own set of format. Having said so, can somebody informally approach you and tell you that I need help? Is police able to help them offline?
I must tell you that this Domestic Violence Act was brought in precisely for this reason. Apart from the fact that it takes care of civil wrongs and economic wrongs and verbal abuse, also that, say, for example, the registered NGOs or the service providers, as they're called in the Act, on behalf of you, they can make a complaint. The police, of course, can so moto make a complaint. So this particular act was brought in to smoothen things out and make it easier for women to come forward, and I mean, somebody could share something with me personally, and I could ask some service provider to file a case on her behalf.
I see.
So yes, that is very much doable under the Act, and this is one of the reasons for the success of this Act, as a matter of fact, vis-a-vis 498A.
Correct. Yeah. I'll come to those numbers later on, Kshamaji. But before that, we have this calling number to the police, 100, 1090, then 1081, 181. I just made the list of those numbers. They are precisely made for people in dispute should call you, in distress should call you, and then you take the action. How many times it rings and how many times it is answered practically?
Okay, I must share this, that here we have a scheme. We had a 1090 number, and then the dial 100 came in. Dial 100 is a much swifter scheme in the sense that you call and the vehicle or the people closest to you immediately reach. So we have a system of checking back with these are called events. When somebody calls in and you receive the call and the force goes there. So we have a system of checking back on the events, exactly for the reasons you are mentioning. How many times the woman had to call? Was she heard? Was a case registered? Was she counseled? Was the perpetrator brought in, spoken to? So we do have a system and we do check back, and in very many cases. In fact, we also take off the inspector in charge or whoever is in charge of that area. They are also given punishments. So we are trying to. This has begun in the last 3-4 years, and we are trying to really build it up so that both ways. Actually, there are these prank calls.
Yeah.
So even they have to be taken to task.
Yes.
But more importantly, women who call in distress, we definitely, I mean, in very many cases, we check back to see and we ask the woman concerned whether she was heard, how many times did she have to, how was she called to the Thana, or because we also have a scheme of EFIR.
Yeah.
So yes, we are doing.
I see. Oh, you have a scheme of EFIR also. Kshamaji, the law that is great, 498. The anti-dowry thing. I will not say how effective it is. I will say how much it is misused. Because I have seen many such examples, live examples in my own vicinity, wherein men had to face a lot of harassment and legal actions because economically strong women wanted to settle the matter. Uh, how do we define it, and how can we protect the law? I will not say man or woman, but the intention of the law, the sanctity of the law.
See, generally, one very common thing that I'm noticing is it's not the people who want to misuse it.
I
Let's
see.
put things very clearly. Unfortunately, I take the blame on the advocates.
Okay.
Now, there was this very recent case where it was a minor tussle between the man and the woman. Yes, there was a little, I wouldn't call verbal abuse. Abuse would be a very strong word. Yes, there were differences in between them. And the wife had gone back to her maternal house. And for some reason, I don't know why, a notice came down from Rajasthan, Mahila Thana, insofar as 498A was concerned, against the brother, brother's wife, husband, and mother-in-law.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, suddenly got very panicky. And then, what is this? Because we've never taken any dowry. What happened? Then, for some reason, I decided, okay, this is not a case where, apart from what legally we have to do, we will do that. But then, I said, something's not very, in the right track in this. So let me give a call directly to the, girl who is involved and find out if they've really taken dowry. Let's go and fix that also. If that's the case, we need to fix it. So I went ahead and gave a call to the girl and she said, Madam, mujhe kuch pata nahi, lawyer ne jo bola, maine wahan pe sign kiya. So most cases of 498A are because of the lawyers telling.
I see.
Generally, in the legal parlance, we call family matters as a package litigation. Because generally, unfortunately, what happens is one person goes and files for restitution, the other one files for divorce, then there is also BV coming in, then there is 498A coming in, then there is, maintenance coming in, then they have children, then there is GNWC coming in. So all of these things coming in, the lawyers make money. I don't want to,
have a soft corner for this.
From the fraternity, not everybody does that, but yes, we do have a chunk who, even if they don't want to make money, they think that's the way out. But no, that's not the way out. Let me be very clear, that's not the way out. To me, there are social issues which can be solved socially, or, when we have to uproot them, then it has to be done socially itself. We need the judiciary, the executive, the legislation together to sit down and understand the collective conscience with the cultural conscience. So long as we are able to integrate this in the legal philosophy, we will be able to come up with the laws that actually help our people and that change our mindset. That's one thing. But that's a little jurisprudential aspect, which I don't want to deal, take time here. It will only turn out to be an academic discussion. But, coming back to the question, it's not necessary. What if you say what is the effectivity of 498A? Yes, it's definitely a very, very good tool.
Yes.
Now, has it been misused? Yes, it has been. There have been instances where it has been misused. Not not always because of the parties itself. Mostly, I should say, as from the legal fraternity is also involved
into it. Yes.
This misuse.
Yes.
But does that mean that 498A should be scrapped, or should that be done? No, absolutely not. Because 498A is also helping quite a few people, genuine cases. So if genuine cases are being addressed, and if they are getting a teeth in order to handle the problem, then you should never remove that teeth. So 498A should be there. But I would again want to go back to what Ekta ji said, because Ekta ji raised very relevant questions. Relevant comments when she meant counseling, and I completely agree with her. And when I use the word counseling, Ekta ji, I refer to counseling that's effective. I don't refer to the mediation or the mediation panels that as lawyers we have brought out, because whenever we sit down to mediate differences, it's mostly because of our cultural background and our cultural upbringing. Therefore, I don't refer to mediation at all. Mediations are not an answer to this. So one of the efforts that very strongly that I'm trying to work with the family courts in Bangalore is get counselors, trained counselors on board who are therapists. So the word that I used along with the counselor was therapist. And I have noticed that a long pending therapy, especially with verbal abuses, physical abuse, therapies are not going to help. There are matters where, you will require psychiatrist intervention in physical abuses because, like you said, there are disorders. There are basic mental disorders. But when the issue is about, suspicion, and the issue is about verbal abuses, then there are issues. I mean, these are mental disorders which can be tackled by way of certain, psychoanalytic therapies, and you have NLPs. So fortunately for me, in our office, we have this, we've kept on practicing this as a part of our practice, as in legal practice. So we have a set of trained counselors. I don't generally send them to our mediation centers or the centers set up by the executive. Because then you have people like me who are not trained in psychology, in psychoanalysis. But I do have these set of therapists and trainers, and when we send them there, I have seen results. I have seen at least about I generally call 25% of success only when there is reunion. And when there is reunion, I also look into whether there's quality reunion. For me, what matters is whether the life or the lifestyle or the quality in that lifestyle, has it changed? And yes, it has changed because we handhold them and we keep checking on whether it's working or not. So that way it works. We need these psychotherapists coming in at the right time. And we also need lawyers to allow them to come in at the right time.
Yes, agree. And rightly said that common men do not know about the laws. And that's the reason lawyers are there. And it is a job of a lawyer to give them proper direction and the legal help they're looking for. But since it's their earning source, they play with it. Ekta ji, personally, if me and my husband has differences of opinion, why cannot I solve it within myself, and why do I need a lawyer's help? Because ultimately, it's between me and my husband. Who else knows me better or my husband better than both of us? Why do I need to go outside and ask for the help? Why cannot I resolve it within myself or within my family?
Right. So very pertinent question, and thank you, Shamaji. Very, very important points, and Pragya ji, very critical points that you brought out. If you are having, we call it dispute, jhagda, we normalize and minimize abuse a lot of times by, using very generic terms for it, right? But let's assume you are having a fight, all right? If you go onto our website, you will see that we have given an entire understanding of whether it is conflict or whether it is abuse. So when anyone comes to us, right, we tell them, is it conflict or is it abuse? Okay, so we run them through, we have an emotional abuse checklist. We run them through the checklist and we ask them on how many, answers they have ticked yes. And we ask them to go through the conflict versus abuse this thing. Now, if it is conflict, right, then conflict is always resolvable. Conflict is between two equal partners, right? And conflict does not have any unpleasantness in it. You fight, you get together, and then you're back to the same. So conflict is not a power game, right? Let us remember domestic violence and domestic abuse is a power game. It's of one person who is stronger than the other. So assuming that you are and we will take your example because you asked. So assuming you're the non-earning member, right? And there is an earning member and you are having a dispute with that earning member. Now, if you are having a conflict, should not keep you in fear of losing, your household or your children. It should not drive fear in you. All right. If you are fearful that, if I speak up, I will be beaten more or tortured more, or I will be asked to do this, or I will be asked to do that, or my jewelry has been taken away, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of insecurity and uncertainty.
Right. But after an informed decision. So this is something that you can go through the list yourself, and you will see how different conflict and abuse are. And conflict is a relationship. See, you and Shamaji are friends. You could argue over something, but then it doesn't matter. It does not affect your long-term relationship.
True.
So that is what we do. And once we understand whether it is conflict or abuse, accordingly we suggest. All right. We don't force a survivor to do anything that they don't want to do. If they say we want to go to a lawyer, see, it's not only a lawyer that you can go to. It's not only the police you can go to. 181 and 1090 are helplines. There are 1,000 NGOs across the country that are running very, very successful counseling centers. There are all the state women commissions that we have. There are the district legal services that we have. So there is not one avenue of reporting. There are so many avenues of reporting. So if you feel that you are in an abusive relationship, right, the first thing is to take stock and see, is it abusive or is it just a conflict?
Okay.
Right. And then if it is abusive, of course, you can proceed by calling up the helpline and speaking to them. And like Shamaji said, there are a lot of very qualified counselors in helplines these days. One of the things that we have not been able to do as a society is when I'm raising my children, right, irrespective of whether they are girls or they are boys, we are raising them in the same way, right, with the same amount of resources, with the same amount of education. But the relationships that they build after they leave our homes are not evolving. So a guy whose sister is a software engineer, right, will not let his wife work or will create barriers for her to work. So what we also need to, and this is an appeal to men, because this is a partnership, right? We cannot do anything without involving men in it. And we have good men, which is why a lot of women are safe.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the critical things that I wanted to point out is men have to start evolving. If this girl has gone to a better school than you, if she comes from a better family, if she is earning more than you, there is no harm in accepting that. She will not come the next day and start washing bartans at your house or washing clothes in your house or doing jhadu pocha or starting to do puja and wearing a gungat. You know, like one of my friends was forced to wear a gungat because she said, my in-law. So she said, I'm not going to wear a gungat. I was wearing Western outfits till yesterday. So we need relationships to evolve. And evolving is not a singular process. It is when everyone participates, parents participate. A lot of mother-in-laws I have seen that, beta kya hota hai, humne bhi to saha, tum thoda sa seh logi to kya hoga? You know, which is essentially saying that just because I have been through the cycle of abuse and I have faced all of this, it is mandatory for you to face. Whereas this mother-in-law can actually break that cycle and say, ki bhai, dekho ye mere saath hua. Right? How do we help you so that it doesn't happen with you? Because a child growing up in a toxic environment या abusive environment, जिसने जिंदगी भर अपनी माँ को मार खाते या गाली खाते देखा है, उसको लगता है यही तरीका है हर चीज को सॉल्व करने का. कोई गाली दे दोगी, औरत एकदम ठीक हो जाएगी, पाँव की जूती हो जाएगी, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to get into very critical details of this, but I feel that reporting does not always mean police ke paas jana. And one or two things about 498A. So going to the police for me is the last resort, right? The first resort is to see कि ये 498A केस में सिर्फ डाउरी नहीं है, क्रूएल्टी भी है. तो आप लड़के वाले हजारों तरह की क्रूएल्टी करते हैं. एंड व्हेन द लॉयर एडवाइजेस दिस गर्ल कि भैया आप 498A लगा दो, तो इट इज नॉट फॉर डाउरी अलोन, राइट? इट इज फॉर क्रूएल्टी, फिजिकल, मेंटल. I mean, I have seen women who are going abortions after abortions for the male child. We know so many people in our backyard, in our societies. I had a very, very horrendous case where this lady was not able to produce a progeny and she was forced to sleep with her father-in-law. And I'm not talking about some era-gera, naktu-khera family. I'm talking about a very rich and very prosperous, very educated family. So, first of all, बहुत सारे stereotypes. I think as service providers ourselves, whether it's the police or whether it's the law, because we cannot work individually also. We all have to work together, whether we like it or we don't like it. हमारा काम एक दूसरे के साथ overlap करेगा. So what I do with all, so we have not created any in-house capabilities. We reach out to professionals who help our survivors, and हम हर केस को बहुत डिटेल में बारीकी से डिस्कस करते हैं. हम कोशिश ये करते हैं कि आइडेंटिफाई करें कि अब्यूज है, कि इट इज जस्ट some sort of a conflict या आपस में लड़ाई झगड़ा है, and then we try to first get, see, we tell the woman also this way that don't go and tell him you are crazy, you need counseling. Sit with him, tell him this is what you did, because if it is conflict, then he is thinking the same way you are thinking. So go to him and tell him कि भाई ये conflict है, but we are not able to resolve it. Do we need to bring in a professional? तो professional counselor होगी, आपकी therapist होगी, right? Of course अगर abuse है तो helplines को call करिए, document करिए. इतनी पढ़ी लिखी हैं, so educated, they will not document their case. No, they will not write down what has happened to them. When you ask them 20 years of marriage, so many women come to us and say, for 25 or 30 years I tolerated the abuse for the sake of my children. अब मेरे बच्चे भी मुझे लात मार देते हैं. So आप इतनी पढ़ी लिखी हैं, आपके पास अच्छी नौकरी है, अच्छे अच्छे businesses हैं. Why are you not noting down things? Why are you not making allies out of it? See, when a child is small, तो समझ में आता है कि आप poison कर रहे हैं उस बच्चे का दिमाग. Of course, that is not the case. The abuser has already established that he is a poisonous person. So I don't believe that. But अगर adult हो गया या थोड़ा teen हो गया बच्चा, समझने लायक हो गया, definitely हाँ, talk to them, take them in confidence. Say, how do we sort this out? तो हमारा कभी भी ये resort नहीं होता कि आप छोड़ दो अपने फैमिली को. We say, let us try and work it out, but if conditions are extreme, we will not at all encourage you to work this out. And there are survivors we have thrown literally out and said, don't come back till you decide what you want to do, because आज तुम मार खा के फिर उसके पास रह जाओगी, फिर तुम 6 दिन बाद मार खाओगे. So you decide what you want to do. कभी-कभी extreme भी हो जाता है, but true. If we see all types.
And it's about dealing with the person, and it cannot be black and white. There are a lot of gray shades into it. There is a lot of subtle and very sensitive matter into it. So Pragya ma'am, is it a time to counsel more men than women?
Before I come to that question, can I with due regards to the panelists, very objectively bring out another aspect of what we are discussing?
Please do.
Please do. Very often we have seen that whatever be the cause, I mean, it's not necessary that it's always physical, domestic, or economic, or whatever abuse by the man or the groom side. Sometimes it's the women who are responsible for what is happening in their lives. But very interestingly, when they come for the 498A, when they come for the registration of 498A, and it could be with a lawyer, it could be without a lawyer. I mean, Shamaji, please excuse me on this. But, when you try and talk to them, and if there is time permitting, and if we talk to them, if we find out that it is basically to bargain, that they have already filed a case of section 125 for maintenance, and that they want to bargain. So if they know that if there is a criminal case there, these, one can extract more out of the other side. Now, it's an unfortunate situation, but it is happening.
It is happening.
I must say that this is happening. Which is why our conviction rates are also low, because once they have done their bargaining bit, they are not interested in what happens to the procedure in the court.
True.
So they change the. Now look at our police stations. So here is a man sitting there registering a case, and then he sees, well, here is the woman changing her mind here just maybe 3 months later. So this happens once, it happens twice. The third time he is not sensitive. He for the fourth time he'll in all likelihood the person sitting there who's not really a very is not highly educated,
highly qualified
that's exactly the whole thing is that what do we do by a woman doing something like this creates problems for any number of women who actually need the law, who actually need that help and support. So that's one bit. You had asked the question about whether it's time that we started counseling. I think yes, we have spoken at great length on counseling. Yes, counseling is required. The thing is about raising children. So when we raise children, it was mentioned that we raised in particular socioeconomic families, you raise them equally. I would say that what the children learn is what they see around them. So if they see their mother, for whatever reason, being very subservient or being abused and still, sticking on so that the family is together, then they grow up to be like that. What we need to do is teach our boys. We only teach our girls. We tell them, you must do this, you must behave like this, you must not go out wearing short clothes, but we never teach the boys. The day the mother starts teaching the boys as well, that no, look, here is a strong mother, I'm telling you, you're just going to behave, you have to respect women, be it your colleagues, be it your friends, be it your friend's sister, be it whoever. So I think that is what is lacking. So I think counseling begins at home. And it begins right at the moment the child is born. That is one thing. The other thing is about the professional counseling. Yes, definitely for various reasons. And it should not be considered taboo. वो तो counselor देख रहे हैं. No, it's not taboo. It's required. It's healthy. It's what will keep you going. So I think yes, that is very much required. And I guess one can only make an appeal to both men and women. I think another thing that one must do is put in, perhaps in the class 11th, 12th or 9th, 10th syllabus, put in some law, because one thing that we all agree is that people don't know law. Now, yes. Half the time the abusers is because they think they'll get away with it. There's nothing that anyone can do about it.
True.
So some bit of law pertaining to violence against women, pertaining to violence against girl child, should be put in the syllabus even as early as school level, 9th, 10th, and definitely in colleges and in senior secondary. So I think all that would help bring in a lot more a lot more coherence,
stability, a lot of harmony in the society,
and a lot of harmony.
Definitely. That is really a big discussion topic and different than what we are talking today. But yes, I completely agree. Times have changed, and women are taking charge and misusing the helping hand given to them. Kshama, is divorce a solution for everything that we talked?
Several times, see, it's like what Ekta ji has very rightly mentioned. If the toxicity in the relationship cannot be brought out, then you have to end the relationship, not just for your own good, but for the societal good. We don't want unhappy families at every nook and corner in the, on the streets. So if the relationship cannot be worked out, yes, divorce is a solution. But several times, if divorce is happening only because it's an ego issue, incompatibility, no, I'm bored and all of these things, then maybe divorce is not a solution. Because they are relationships that land up in divorce after, because I have had, I have a client where I have handled the third divorce of the same person. So to those, their divorce is like, for them, it just keeps happening. It comes, it happens, marriage happens, divorce happens, and then it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
But there are, if you're asking if divorce is a solution, that's a very, again, I should say, depends on how you're taking. But one thing is, unfortunately, society judges you because you're a divorcee.
But nowadays, nobody is scared of it.
Has taken up. No, that job the society has taken up. It's going to be a very long time for us to teach the society. But what we can teach ourselves is, you stop judging yourself. So you stop judging yourself and be confident. The fact that don't get into the guilt syndrome that, oh, I took a divorce, what is going to happen of me? No, you took a divorce. But the moment you say you have taken a divorce and you have ended a toxic relationship, that's the time when you say, okay, that's the first step I have taken towards my happiness, my emotional, to stay calm within and to focus on much larger goals that are in front of you. So when the society is actually sitting and, casting something upon you, you don't take the onus on the society, off the society, and cast upon yourself. When you take a divorce, take it consciously and make it a solution. Whether we are going to make it a solution or not is in our hands.
True.
Yes.
Definitely. Ekta ji, one tricky question to you. Not question as such, but a thought that I want to share. All this abuse, all this harassment, all this atrocity, is it an individual problem or is it a societal problem? And if it is a societal problem, why not society engage or get involved into solving this?
Okay, perfect. So this is the perfect question actually, because it helps me answer a couple of things also. So what I wanted to bring to the forefront before I give an answer to this question is that Invisible Scars, if you go to our website and you see our website, you will see that we are almost 85% gender neutral. So we help survivors, male survivors of abuse as well, and we help women survivors, and we have helped a couple of trans people also navigate these abusive relationships, right? So I wanted to put that before I went on to answer this. See, what used to happen initially is that because of the patriarchal structure of our society, of course, the statistics are, absolutely, very, very diverse. Women, a very large number of women is facing violence and abuse, while a lesser number of men are facing violence and abuse, but they are facing. So we cannot say that they are not facing violence and abuse, right? Now, there is one issue which our society does not address at all, which is mental health. We do not talk about mental health. And there are enough women, like the case, Pragya ji, I think, shared the case of where I think Shamaji shared where 3 or 4 times she went through the same thing. So completely, we accept that domestic violence also happens to women. In fact, I have done a panel discussion on it where we brought in a survivor from UK to tell us what he went through, so that men who feel that there's no place for us to go and there's no one to help us, please know that we are there and we will listen to you. We believe our survivors, whoever they are, and then of course we investigate to arrive at whether the case is correct or not. So that's the first thing. Dusra, mental health issues are not at all tackled, and uski wajah se a lot of mental health issues which are simmering in relationships. See, our life has become very stressful, very fast. Women are becoming so empowered these days that, there are single clubs of women with 70,000, 60,000 single women not choosing to get married. At all, saying that we don't want to get married, we are self-sufficient, right? Also, on the other hand, there is one small issue I wanted to point out. We got a case where this gentleman came to us and he complained that he was being mentally abused by his wife. And so, when we started to question him and we started to question her, and this process took a few weeks, finally we realized that he had set a set of rules and regulations for her, which when she was rebelling against or breaking any of those rules, he would shout at her and then she would shout back. And he came to us saying this is abuse. So of course, this case we definitely sent to the counselor. We said, no, this is not abuse. You need counseling and you need to understand that you cannot force. So he was wanting his wife to study further. That girl said, I'm not good in studies. I don't want to study further. Mujhe kuch business kara do. And that was the source of constant this thing. And he had a failed marriage. So he assumed that this girl is going to be like his first wife. And thankfully, they are back together and they are happy now.
Wonderful.
Sorry. And the question you asked, I think I missed the question only.
Yeah, I said, is it a societal problem? And if so, why not society engage it?
Right. So because we say domestic abuse घर का मामला है, आपस का मामला है. We don't treat domestic violence or domestic abuse as a human rights violation. भाई, if there is a law against a certain thing, तो वो human rights violation हुआ ना. आपको किसी के ऊपर चिल्लाने का अधिकार नहीं है, किसी को मारने का अधिकार नहीं है. आप कोई भी हैं, whether you're a man or you're a woman, right? I'm not getting into the gender right now. Even if you're non-binary, you have no business hitting anybody, trying to force someone to do something, and things like that. And I think that thought process needs to become clearer. It is a societal problem for sure, because अपने यहाँ तो इंडियन लोग की आदत होती है हर चीज में नाक घुसेड़ने की. किसी का कुछ हुआ तो they treated like fodder for gossip, अरे इनके घर में तो ये हो गया, इनकी सास ने ऐसा किया, उनकी बहू ने ऐसा किया. These are topics of discussion, and this is abhorrent, because if women are talking about another woman, right, going through something like that and constantly criticizing her for, अरे उसने ऐसा क्यों किया, मैं होती तो मैं ऐसा नहीं करती, it's really nobody but the survivor knows what they are going through. Right? And definitely it's a societal problem because we are not getting over that stereotype कि घर का मामला है. Minimize कर देते हैं हम, normalize कर देते हैं, हम बोलते हैं कि घर का मामला है, कौन बाहर वाला बीच में क्यों पड़े, कौन झंझट में पड़े. So these are things that we do as a society, and hence if we start to play more active roles as upstanders. You are not trained to counsel anybody. So, survivor of domestic violence came to us and she said, I'm getting counseling. So we said, acha, very good. And we continue to map her progress. But 6 months later, still the same issue. तो बाद में पता चला कि काउंसलिंग के लिए she used to go to her gynecologist. So we said, भाई वो काउंसलिंग नहीं होती है. You actually have to go to a mental health professional. Whether you choose a psychologist or a psychiatrist, that's up to you. But you need to go. So stereotype से निकले, normalize ना करें, and evolve. Men, please evolve. We need you to evolve. We need you to know कि हो सकता है खाना बनाना हमारा ambition है ही नहीं, और हम चाहते ही नहीं है कि हम 50 तरह की वैरायटी का खाना बना के सबको खिलाए. But that's our right to choose, and I think these are things that will help us, because there's a lot of work that the society can do. And if someone reaches out to you, please don't attempt to advise. Go to a professional who knows how to deal with the issue. अपनी ज्ञान मत बांटे. मतलब देयर इज अ कहावत इन हिंदी कि कृपया ज्ञान ना बांटे, यहाँ सभी लोग ज्ञानी हैं. तो I very strongly adhere to that and probably over answered your question also. But
no worries. Thank you. That covers when I wanted to request that please share your last word, and then you already did it. प्रज्ञा जी, पुलिस का काम कम हो और आपको ऐसी नौबत ही ना आए कि कहीं आपको लीगल एनफोर्समेंट करना पड़े, तो व्हाट इज दैट यू वांट टू टेल और अपील टू द सोसाइटी?
Look, we have seen in the last 1 decade, very many new minor acts have been enacted to protect women, to protect children. These acts are necessitated because these things have been happening, were happening. It's not that somebody has imposed these laws. So when somebody says that, well, ye to zyadati ho rahi hai, I don't agree with this. For example, in 354, section 354, they have added ghurna or staring as a serious offense. तो कई सारे जो हमारे male colleagues हैं, I have most of them are male. Absolutely. So they say ये क्या है, और क्या while talking can't we even look at you? I said no. I mean, I personally know of a very senior officer when I was working with Government of India, and I knew that when what looking is and what staring is. When you stare, you're 6 inches below the face. So we know what you're doing. So the point is that when laws are enacted, they are a response to what is happening in the society. What if we want to minimize what and the ideal society would be a state where the police is not required. So for that to happen, we need to introspect as a society, as individuals, as parents, maybe, and on the other hand, professionally, the police needs to ensure that if something like this has happened, somebody has reached out to us, we take it to its logical conclusion. Now, both the things put together, maybe perhaps it would take some time, because we are still evolving as a society. Women have started coming out in big numbers to workplaces. We need to enable them. We need to tell our men that if a woman is your boss, you need to respect her. She also, she has to spend time in office. Therefore, the boys have to be told, you need to be an equal participant in the domestic course. So these things, and they're happening, be it through counseling, be it through what people are seeing, looking around, reading, or maybe, more people are going abroad. The police is professionally becoming more sensitive. We are trying to reach out, hoping against hope that the society itself takes a cue from what is happening. And we all worked, it has to be a convergence. Everyone has to work together to reduce crime, to bring about a position where people like me don't get a job.
No, we want you to do something else. We definitely need you. हर एक दोस्त जरूरी होता है. Shama, last word. Is it very, very required that women should know laws and women should know that they can seek help on various platforms, as Ektaji mentioned, because there are things available, but many people do not know about it. And those who know, they misuse it or overuse it. So, what is that as a lawyer you think should do that lawyers do not misguide people?
Law, first thing we learn is ignorance of law is no excuse. Now, whether you are a child, whether you are a woman, whether you are a man, whether you are anybody, whether you are, you belong to a third gender, it doesn't matter. Know the laws, know your rights, know the constitution. No, basically, I'm not asking you to know everything about this, but yes, basic rights that belong to us, basic duties that we have to do, and basic duties that are imposed on us, and basic rights that are that we have been ordained with. These are things that we should know. By knowing what happens, knowledge is always power. So when knowledge is power, whether I'm going to use it or I'm not going to use it depends on a lot of factors. Depends on how emotionally stable I am, how, what the environment is, what my cultural background is, what my upbringing is, what my confidence levels are, all of these things. But there should not be a situation that I'm not using it because I don't know about it. Because when I don't know about it, that shows, that kind of creates a disability. So such kinds of disabilities should not be entertained, and as a society, we should not have such kinds of disabilities. Ignorance should not be a disability. So knowledge should be your ability. Using of it is absolutely your prerogative, but you should know about it, definitely. But Ketki, I want to take a minute and just go back and answer one of your questions, whether it was a societal problem or the only reason why I'm tempted to answer this is because of the presence of Ektaji and Pragyaji. One of these things that I generally keep telling is any domestic abuse, especially when any family disputes come to me, they are not. Again, when I use the word family dispute, I mean the issues between husband and wife. They are not generally or only because of the husband and wife per se. Yes, physical abuse and these things are mental disorders. That's one part. But the verbal abuse also comes because of, the mother telling him, or because of some tussle that has happened between other relationships which they are not able to handle, and all of these things. So one of the answers that I keep telling whenever I invite, my clients, I also invite their both generations to come together. I mean, I want the woman along with her parents. I want the man along with his parents to come down together. Otherwise, things won't settle down. Yes. So what I keep telling them is, we had a very beautiful system. We keep saying joint families are beautiful. But whenever I have seen women coming from joint families, I've also seen joint abuses. So strangely, that also happens. So it comes both ways.
True.
So what I tell them is, we had a very beautiful system of ashramas. The first 25 years, we have Brahmacharya ashrama. Second 25 years, we have Grihastha ashrama. The third 25 years, we have Vanaprastha ashrama. And then we have Sannyas ashrama. Now, how beautifully it's done is, when the person completes his first 25 years and he moves on to the Grihastha ashrama, that's when his son would have entered his son, or, I use the word son very gender neutral. Yeah. The child would have entered the, Brahmacharya ashrama. Yes. By the time the child enters the Grihastha ashrama, this person who was in Grihastha will move to the phase of letting go to Vanaprastha ashrama. Now, when I use the word Vanaprastha ashrama, I am not using it that you have to go to the forest. I'm saying mentally let go of power.
Yes.
Don't possess things. Involve in things, but do not attach yourselves and don't be possessive about things. It's okay if the, her daughter-in-law wants to do the dishes at night. It's okay if the daughter-in-law wants to mop in the morning or do something else at night, or if she wants to cook this one or she wants to cook something else. Don't bring these reasonings and say that I used to do this and that's why it has to happen this way. And the man shouting at her saying that if my mother can do it, why can't you do it? No, I mean, the generations need to understand that after one point of time, you have to let go of things. Live life to the fullest in your Grihastha ashrama. The time you enter the Vanaprastha ashrama, learn to let go of Yes.
Yes.
So this is basically an intergenerational power struggle is what I keep saying. All your family disputes are intergenerational power struggle.
Done.
So if the society can understand that, then I guess most of these things can be resolved.
Sorry, this is for all binary people. For non-binary people, you have a life too. We recognize that and we accept you as part of our society because our culture also accepts people who are non-binary. Absolutely. So I just wanted to make that point because
definitely,
I'm very passionate about.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. I think I would thank you. And before that, I would say that we have a very strong societal values, moral values. Our culture has taught us. Somewhere we have forgotten, and the Western culture and the ideologies have overpowered us. And that's where we are losing the context and trying to do the things which do not suit our system, which do not suit our lifestyle. So people should fall back to the strong foundation that we have. And women have a role to play, men have a role to play. And if both perform well, the drama is going to be interesting. Thank you so much, everybody. Nice talking to all of you.
Thank you to everyone watching.